Thank you for attending the executive webinar session of Bimser International Corporation. Bimser International is a world-class global enterprise software publisher since 1998. Based in New York, Bimser is active nationally and internationally. For more information, please visit www.bimserint.net. To get the executive webinar session started, I would like to invite the Managing Director of Bimser International, Kevin Devachoglu, to the virtual stage. Kevin, floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introductions. My name is Kevin Devachoglu, and I'm the Managing Director of Bimser International. Today, we'll be talking about AS9100 and compliance requirements in aerospace industry, followed by introductions to QDMS software. I have my colleagues with me, and we'll be covering AS9100. We have Alex Quattro from MRAS Consulting. He is the president of the company, and he'll be talking about the foundations of AS9100, principles of AS9100. He has years of experience in aerospace industry, so we'll learn from Alex. We also have Sam Watt with us, our senior process software engineer, who will be talking about QDMS software on a high level, and you'll be learning about the software itself, its benefits and features. And we have Michael Ferrara with us, our pre-sales software engineer at Bimser International, and he's also with us today as part of our panel. Before further ado, I'd like to invite Alex to our virtual stage. Let's learn about the fundamentals of AS9100, the foundational information that we have to think about what type of compliance requirements there are for the aerospace industry. Alex, if you are ready.
Yes,
share the screen.
yes, so let me share the screen. All right.
Looks good, thank you.
Okay, very good. And thank you very much, Kevin, for inviting me to this presentation, and welcome everybody. What we'll cover today is a very brief and top-level introduction to the AS9100 quality management system, which specifically covers the aerospace military industry, and how do you really meet the compliance for the requirements of the standard. Before I start my presentation, just want to introduce myself and my company, MRAS Consulting. I personally am a certified ISO 9001 lead auditor and also the sole proprietor of MRAS Consulting. I've established my company back in 2015 after a rather lengthy career as a project manager in a large aerospace company, which is certified to the AS9100 quality standard. So what I currently do is I provide consulting services for various businesses to help them achieve as well as maintain ISO certification. And back in 2018, I became a Bimser Solutions partner to support the marketing activities, specifically for the QDMS tool, which I was very impressed with because certainly it really helps to manage all of the extensive data that's associated with ISO or AS9100. And what I try to do is I try to help organizations apply this tool to this ISO environment. And I also present webinars and lectures on various ISO topics. All right, let's talk about what is AS9100 standard. And the latest revision of AS9100 is revision D, which was released by the International Aerospace Quality Group back in September of 2016. And IAQ QDMG is an international nonprofit organization located in Brussels. And it really focuses on the aerospace and defense industry, broken up into 3 sectors: Americas, Asia Pacific, and Europe. Now, again, like I mentioned before, AS9100 provides the quality management requirements for the aviation, space, and defense organizations. So if you're involved in any of those organizations, then the AS9100 is the right quality standard. Now, the AS9100 is really based on ISO 9000, which is the latest version is the 2015 version, which ISO 9001 is the generic quality management system for any industry. And as I will discuss later, AS9100 is really a superset of ISO 9001. So it certainly covers all of the ISO 9001 requirements, plus there are additional requirements specifically targeted for the aerospace and defense industry. And in order to coordinate all of those requirements, IAQG is represented on the technical committee of ISO so that they can coordinate all of the requirements. Now, I will obviously focus on the AS9100 because that's really the requirement for organizations that are developing products and services for the aerospace and space and defense industry. And there are other standards like the 9110, which is specifically targeted for the aviation maintenance organization, the 9120 for the distributors, and 9101 is a standard of how to perform audits for all of the 9100 type requirements. Okay, just a brief overview of what the quality management system is. And this diagram really applies to any of the ISOs or AS9100 because it's very generic. However, I believe it is probably the best diagram that kind of pictorially describes what is really involved in a quality management system. And this PDCA cycle was developed by Deming, who was a quality guru, and it really provides a guidance, and it really ties in with all of the ISO clauses because the ISO clauses are summarized on the right-hand side. The requirements are in clauses 4 through 10. The first 3 clauses are basically introduction, definition, and so on. But the meat of the requirements are in those clauses. Now, on the diagram, you can see in the parentheses, there are numbers, and those numbers refer to the ISO clauses. So as you can see, the inputs are really consist of the customer requirements. And also, obviously, you have the organization and its context, as well as the expectations of all the interested parties. Obviously, the investors, the regulatory organizations, and certainly the customers. So all of those requirements and expectation and needs go into the planning stage, which is clause 6. And also specifically for AS9100, risk management is a very important input. It is an input for all of the ISOs, but for AS9100, risk management plays a very important role in the planning stage. So after you complete the planning, you go on to your operations, support and operations. So this includes all of the personnel, equipment needed to design, develop your product or service, which is whose requirements are specified in clause 7 and 8. Now, once you've completed your product, you then look you evaluate, you perform an evaluation of the product to see if it meets the requirements. So it's really part of the testing. And this is where you look at what improvements or changes need to be made. And not only is it internally generated, but also you need to get feedback from your customer and identify any issues that the customer has. So all of that information feeds into clause 9, which is the performance evaluation, which then you look at and decide, well, what are the improvements or the most important improvements that need to get done, which are performed in clause 10. And then you obviously, once you make a decision on what changes have to be made, you go back to the planning phase and then you repeat the process. So you're really continuously staying in this loop. And this loop is really your continuous improvement cycle, which is a very important part of ISO. So again, that kind of gives you a top level summary of what the quality management system is. So now specifically, let's look at what AS9100, what the requirements are. What are really the additional requirements above the ISO 9001? So if you look at proportionally, I would say roughly that 80% of the AS9100 requirements are contained in ISO 9001. But above the ISO 9001 requirements, there are very specific additional requirements which must be satisfied for the organization to be compliant with AS9100. And I've listed, kind of summarized some of the most important additional requirements. The first one is obviously risk management. It's very critical for under AS9100 to have a risk management process which is monitored and tracked. So it could be very important to have a risk manager person who would be responsible to make sure that the risk management process is implemented. Product safety, and that's obvious. All of this equipment will be flown in aircraft or in space, so obviously specific safety requirements must be satisfied. There are also special requirements, which obviously environment, vibration, and those are some examples of special requirements which must be satisfied. And obviously, whenever you have special requirements, you have to test them and you have to validate them. So along comes with an extensive verification program. There's certain critical items which are identified in the requirements. And again, those have to be addressed specifically as part of the AS9100 process. Configuration management is very important. You have to make sure that all of the documents, requirements, whether they're internal or external from the customer, from the regulatory agencies, that you are using the latest version. So configuration management control must be very diligently implemented. Obviously, on-time delivery. If you're part of the supply chain to, let's say, an aircraft manufacturer, on-time delivery is very important, because otherwise the whole assembly of the aircraft would be impacted. Counterfeit parts. How do you deal with counterfeit parts? And unfortunately, that's an issue that needs to be addressed because they appear to be identical to the real part, but they're not, and they could fail or not fully meet the requirements, and obviously that could be a very serious impact to the quality of the product. And finally, there is an expanded requirement for production testing, and also verification and validation of your external providers. First article testing is very important to make sure that the requirements of your product are fully satisfied, and you have to, if you obviously have external providers or supply chain, that all of these requirements are flowed down to them. So it really behooves for the supply chain to also be certified to the AS9100 standard. Okay, very briefly, what are the benefits of being AS9100 certified? Well, if you're part of the supply chain for the particular industry, you may be required to be certified to AS9100. But yes, it requires some additional effort, and obviously there's cost associated with it. However, there are certain advantages that result from this certification. So obviously your quality improves. So you're really meeting the safety and reliability of your products, and you will meet, or even you may exceed, some of the customer requirements and the regulatory requirements that are imposed on your products, and therefore your customer satisfaction is certainly improved. This forces also for you to establish processes in which you manage your business. And obviously, as I mentioned before, this continuous improvement cycle helps you to achieve those improvements. And once you have defined your internal processes, it certainly makes your process, your work more efficient, and it really makes it helps you to achieve your goals as far as staying on schedule and achieve all your performance goals. Again, as I mentioned before, documentation is very important. You want to make sure that you're working towards the latest released documents, and that all of the older versions are archived, but still available for future reference. So your supply chain is very important, and obviously lately there's been a lot of emphasis on the supply chain, and sometimes it does create an issue when there's shortages of parts. But I think that it is your organization's responsibility to plan ahead and try to minimize any impacts on the supply chain. And also, you have to focus on the stakeholders and all of the interested parties, make sure that they are satisfied with your performance. Actually, AS9100D requires fewer documents than the previous versions, but it's up to you, to your organization, to decide which documents you need to effectively run your business. So you don't need to have documents that are useless for your organization, but if you need documents that help you manage your business, then they have to be available and maintained properly. And obviously, since the AS9100 is a worldwide standard, it's recognized by all of the regulatory authorities. All right, in conclusion, obviously the current environment, the post-pandemic environment has really changed from what we had 3 years ago. As you're all aware, a number of employees are able to work remotely. And obviously that creates an issue of how do you access the company QMS data from a remote location. So what you really need to have to work for this process to work efficiently is you have to have a virtual control of all of the QMS documents and records. Otherwise, being off-site may prevent you from accomplishing your task. Also audits, whether they're internal audits or audits by the certification authority, can be conducted remotely. And the auditors may not need to be present at the organization site. So obviously, in order to do this, you need to really have a tool that would allow you to do that. Okay, so that you need to have a virtual access to all of the QMS data. And certainly QDMS software tool, which is developed by Bimser, fully supports this kind of implementation. It's a digital implementation. Not only is all the information stored on a server, but now with the proper permissions, any external user can have access to whatever data the individual needs to have access to. So it's highly recommended that in order to support the QMS management, both on-site and remotely, that a software tool such as QDMS be available for your organization. And I believe Sam will have a demo of how this tool can support your organizations. So again, that completes my presentation, and thank you for your attention. And I'm, passing on to Kevin. Thank you.
Alex, thank you very much for informative presentation and sharing your insights. Very helpful for sure. Thank you so much. So as next step, as Alex mentioned, let's talk about QDMS software. Let's show you how it looks, how it feels, and how it can help you manage your compliance requirements. So I'm inviting my colleague, our senior pre-sales software engineer, Sam Watt, to our virtual stage. And Sam will be showing you the QDMS software live in action for you to see how it is helpful for compliance requirements digitally. Sam, if you are ready, please take over the screen. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining today's webinar. And this is Sam, the Senior Pre-Sales Software Engineer of Bimser International based in New York. In the following, I will demonstrate you QDMS, which is our quality, risk, audit, and compliance management system. As for QDMS, it is a web-based system. So while you're complying with the standard, like AS9100, then you can connect to your own instance by using any web browsers like Google Chrome, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, or even Internet Explorer, and enjoy the benefits from our system. So QDMS is also permission-based, meaning not everyone can see everything. You will see what you're supposed to do based on the permissions that are granted to your account. Different users have different permission settings based upon their role, position, profession, department, and group. I'm now logging in as the admin so that I have full control of the system. And right after we log into QDMS, we can find all the pending tasks and also assignments on our homepage, which allows you to get a quick connection and start proceeding with this particular request. For example, there is a corrective action that we are waiting for us to perform. Then we can find this notice here. In addition, we will also get a notification in our email inbox. So that is a two-way notification feature that we have in QDMS in order to make sure you will not miss any important quality management activities by using our system. On the top left, this is the main menu of QDMS. It provides over 30 modules in our system that helps you digitize and automate your quality management activities. Thanks to the modular structure of our system, you can pick and choose the modules that you want to have and deploy on your instance while you're complying with the standards or the regulations. And today, we will get into the corrective action module, as known as CAPA module, and also the risk assessment module on a high level. By using the corrective action module, it allows us to record all the non-conformity that we found out in our company. And all the records will be saved in an archive of QDMS with the status of it. And the status is determined by the progress that we're handling this non-conformity. Those will be shown as result, open, review, follow-up, and so on. And in our system, it takes you step by step for managing all the non-conformity that you recorded in the system. And this is the report that shows all the history of this particular record. We can find all the non-conformity and also the detail of it. Furthermore, the system will save the username and also date and time so that you can always keep tracking who did what in your system and when your record has been filed. After that, the system will allow you to assign this non-conformity to a solution team, and this team has to perform the first progress report, meaning the investigation. Once the first progress report is filed, then the team will be able to define the root cause, like why we are having this non-conformity in our organization, and schedule any corrective action in order to cope with this root cause. We can invite the action performer and also the responsible person to this corrective action. And you can see also the system will record the date and time that you assign this corrective action, which allows you to keep tracking the performance of the users. If there's no other follow-up action is needed, then we can close this corrective action accordingly. By coming to this page, imagine the standard auditor come to your office and ask you how you manage your non-conformity and corrective action in your company. You don't have to search all the records that you save on your local drive, or search all the folders that you have in your drawers or cabinets. Actually, you just go to QDMS and then you can show the auditor right away how you manage your non-conformity and also your corrective actions. First of all, the auditor will be impressed, and he or she may give you a good time in terms of the audit. And also it helps you save your costs and also the time for managing all the records that you have for managing corrective action. As I've mentioned a couple minutes ago, QDMS have a very nice structure and well-organized corrective action module. So when we create a new record in this corrective action module, then we can file a new one. And on the top, the system will take you step by step, including assigning the non-conformity to a solution team, finding the first report right now, which is unavailable, As I've mentioned, the system will take you step by step, and it will be available eventually based upon the progress that you're handling this non-conformity. Also, defining the root cause, scheduling the corrective action, scheduling the follow-up action, and close the case. So all of those are well organized in QDMS, and the user could schedule it one by one based up once the previous step is finished or complete. In all the modules of QDMS, you can find the reporting tool that allows you to generate different ready-made reports. For example, the corrective action cost report, the corrective action detail report, all of those are ready-made. So what we have to do is get into this report, and we can put together certain criteria or conditions before we show all the records in our report. After that, all your records will be shown in a list, and you're more than welcome to export and all the reports that you generate in QDMS into Excel or PDF for sharing with any responsible parties or for your own documentation. And in QDMS, we also have the risk assessment management module. As we all know, risk assessment is not a one-time job. We have to perform it periodically, like weekly, monthly, semi-annually, or even annually. Regardless the frequency, we have to perform the risk assessment, and we have the assessment for different locations and also departments. Therefore, in QDMS, we can have our risk assessment plan, meaning what aspect that we are trying to assess, and then we can create different risk assessment item under the planning. And the item meaning like the objectives that we have, like we create different items for different departments. In this example, in my demo environment, those are the production department, the shipping department, and also the packaging department. And in QDMS, all the records will be shown in different color based upon the impact and also the likelihood of this risk assessment. Furthermore, you can also find the trend of this risk. As I've mentioned, it's not one-time job. We have to perform it repeatedly and periodically, so that you can also find the trend, like if we have an improvement on it, or it is getting worse, or things just stay the same. Further, besides, we can also find the version of this record, so that we can always keep tracking how many times or how many previous records that we have archived in QDMS. And by using QDMS, we can record the day that we have this risk assessment with the date and also the time to be recorded. Also, we can put together the source of this risk, like how we are going to, or how we possibly have this risk. So all of those are manageable in QDMS, and also the system will calculate the risk score based upon the impact and also the likelihood of this risk, and it will divide into different level based upon the score that we have. Of course, we can create our ready-made report under this risk assessment module, so that we can always keep managing and performing the risk assessment activities in our organization. And this is how we can use or enjoy the benefit of QDMS by using our web browser. Also, we have a native mobile application that is available for Android and iOS devices. You can download QDMS mobile by using the App Store or the Google Play Store. This is my cell phone, my smartphone running an Android OS. And I'm going to open the QDMS mobile application and put this on the screen. And this is the login page of the mobile application. We can log in with the same credentials that we used to log in by using the web browser. And we can find all the panel cards from our smartphone or tablet right after we log in. For example, all the corrective actions that are waiting for our response, like that is going to be closed. And on the left, you can also find the modules of QDMS that you can find all those modules that those are available, or you have the permission to connect with, so that whenever you are more than welcome to connect to QDMS by using the mobile application and manage your quality management activities digitally. It comes to the end of my demonstration on a high level. Thank you very much.
Sam, thank you very much for your demonstration. Also, thank you, Alex, for your presentation as well to introduce AS9100. And with the help of Sam's presentation, demonstration, we had a chance to see how QDMS looks, how it feels, and helps for compliance requirements in the scope of AS9100. As of now, we lay the foundation of AS9100, and we also demonstrated QDMS software. Before we end our session, I'd like to share some more information with regards to QDMS software. As Bimser International, we have been developing QDMS since 1998. As my colleague Sam demonstrated, that's a very mature system. It has more than 1 million professional users using QDMS on a daily basis for compliance requirements digitally. It is also Acumatica ERP certified and Sage ERP certified for those companies using those ERP systems with compliance requirements. As demonstrated earlier, QDMS automates your quality management system, your processes. You can improve your business processes digitally. You can have a digital audit experience, risk management experience digitally. You can take actions to improve your business processes and further your team members' skills and their experience in their particular fields. At the end of the day, you are digitizing your records and you are creating a compliance memory, a corporate memory that can be retrieved anytime, no matter where you are. Just like Alex mentioned earlier, because of the COVID requirements, and after COVID, many employees are working remotely or in a hybrid setting. So having QDMS and being able to access compliance records, no matter where you are, from the office, from the home, if you're in transit or a business trip, for example, that is very advantageous to make sure continuously you can manage your compliance requirements digitally with the help of QDMS. Also, you can comply with more than one compliance requirements. You may be compliant with AS9100, at the same time, you may be compliant with ISO 14001, for example, or any other compliance requirements can be satisfied on QDMS digitally. And QDMS is easy to use. Once we train you, you'll be ready to manage QDMS as an admin without any IT support, without any continuous support. Actually, you'll be able to own the software and manage the QDMS's activities digitally, no matter where you are for compliance requirements. As my colleague Sam mentioned and demonstrated earlier, the mobile application is actually very practical, and you can access your data with your mobile app as well via your smartphone or tablet. QDMS has advanced integration capabilities. It integrates with ERP systems, CRM systems, manufacturing execution systems in manufacturing settings, as well as IoT devices such as smart sensors to make sure your operations are in order, and if there is any need for audits or inspections or quality checks, your smart sensors can be talking to QDMS digitally. So this integration offering is actually very advantageous for your company operationally. While QDMS is great for ISO 9001 compliance, as well as AS9100 compliance in aerospace industry, at the end of the day, QDMS is vertical free. No matter what industry you are in, you can use QDMS and manage your compliance requirements digitally, no matter where you are. During demonstration, you saw some of the modules of QDMS. There are more than 30 modules available. You can pick and choose any module that you like. Typically, Control Document Manager module is the backbone of your compliance system to manage your SOPs, policies, procedures, guidelines, and other records. Also, there is customer complaint module, corrective action module, waste management module, incident management module, and there are many other modules available. There's more than 30 modules that you can pick and choose based on your compliance requirements to manage digitally. Great. So in a nutshell, that's what QDMS does. So as of now, we talk about AS9100, the fundamentals of AS9100. Alex presented that. Sam also demonstrated QDMS as to how it looks, how it feels, how it helps compliance digitally. So before we end our session, Alex, do you have any final remarks?
Yes, sure. Yes, what I wanted to just say is that I have been working in this AS9100 environment for a long, long time. And unfortunately, I was not aware of this QDMS tool, which would have really helped tremendously in our organization. And in particular, I think where a big advantage of having a tool like that is the preparation for audits, external audits, because I remember that for the yearly surveillance audit, we spent maybe a couple of weeks preparing, making sure that all the information is available for the auditor. And there was really a lot of wasted time. Whereas if we had a tool like QDMS, then obviously it almost would have required no preparation time because everything would have been already stored and ready for review right on that tool. So I think dealing with all this massive data associated with any ISO or AS9100, QDMS really offers a lot of advantages to make your life a lot easier. So that's really the takeaway for as far as I'm concerned. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Alex, thank you very much for sharing your insights. Much appreciated for the final remarks. Thank you. Before we end our session, we'll also talk about some coming events. Earlier this year, we delivered Synergize 2022, annual virtual conference and summit of Bimser International. We are also getting ready for the next year's version, scheduled on March 15. So you can visit our Eventbrite page and register for the Synergize 2023, where we'll be talking about digital transformation, automation, as well as Industry 4.0. Our Eventbrite page has information and registration offering also for our coming webinars, as well as on-site events that you can see and register for those that you're interested. We have an official YouTube channel. It is actually very active. We have hundreds of videos available, and these videos are informative. They cover things like manufacturing 4.0, automation, preventive maintenance, ISO 9001, digital transformation. So please visit our YouTube channel and subscribe for those videos that you may be interested in. I'd like to thank you for your time and thank you for your interest. And we are looking forward to seeing you at our coming executive webinar series. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
Thank you for attending the executive webinar session at Bimser International Corporation. Bimser International is a world-class global enterprise software publisher since 1998. Based in New York, Bimser is active nationally and internationally. To learn more about Bimser International, please visit www.bimserint.net. To schedule an introductory meeting, please email marketingteam@bimserint.net. Thank you.